Okay, so in this video, I'm going to be talking about the importance of sensory corrections for children's development. Okay, so what are sensory corrections? So sensory corrections are our nervous system's way of using incoming information through the senses in order to guide our movements and our actions. So sensory corrections are important because our brain's way of organizing action is through sensation. So without sensory corrections, we couldn't really complete any action. Why are sensory corrections essential when we talk about movement? Sensory corrections are essential because as we are doing any movement or action, we are getting sensation through the receptors that gets sent to the brain. And this tells the brain about the progress of the movement. How is the movement going? Is there something that's happening that's getting in the way of the movement being completed? And then with this information, the brain can then send a signal out to make a correction, right? To do a change, a slight change that will then have the movement be completed. A doctor by the name of Emmy Pickler was a pediatrician who founded and operated a large orphanage in Europe after World War II. She was a very big advocate for providing safe and loving conditions for children to grow and develop at their own pace without adults imposing rigid goals in their effort to accelerate children's different milestones before they could do it on their own. So Dr. Pickler observed that not only did the children learn to sit, stand, and walk by themselves, but they were apparently more independent, more sure in their movement, and in general more content and quiet in their behavior than were other children of the same age. And not only did they move very well, but they fell well. So falling is unavoidable. We all fall. But these children, because they were given time and space to develop their sensory corrections, they now have an ability to fall very well. And they fell so well that among the 1,400 children who were raised in her institute from infancy, none of them had any fractures. Movement has a direct relationship to your ability to organize your sensations, to your brain's ability to organize that information. It has a mirror relationship. Anytime you'll see improvements in a child's movements or improvements in your own movements, this will always be related to the child's ability or your ability to organize that information that is coming in through your sensations or sensory corrections. Okay, so let's think about two different race car drivers. So one race car driver always drives on the same track in the same conditions, maybe an indoor track, in the same conditions, and he doesn't ever have to make any sensory corrections. He just continually drives in a circle. There's no other opponents, right? There's no other moving targets, tires coming at him, nothing. He just always does the same thing. And he drives for 20 years as a race car driver. Then we have the second driver who also has driven for 20 years. But throughout his racing career, he's done tons of different road conditions, wet, dry, maybe even snowy conditions, maybe even muddy conditions. And he's driven through multiple different winding courses against lots of different opponents with lots of different moving variables. And he's had to, throughout his 20-year career, had to always respond to the different things coming at him and used sensory corrections, right? So if a driver all of a sudden turns out of nowhere, he might get in a crash or he might be able to dodge it. But over his career, he's experienced all these things. All of these things throughout his career have added to his library of sensory corrections. I call it a piggy bank, but all of these things have added to and enriched his ability at sensory corrections. And this story that I'm telling is just made up, but it also applies to children, right? So if a child can experience something in a multitude of ways and fail in a multitude of ways, they are deepening their piggy bank, their sensory piggy bank, and this will have a direct effect on how good they are at responding to different things that are changing within their environment, right? So they might be running down the street and all of a sudden out of nowhere a ball comes, or a kid on a scooter comes, or something out of the ordinary. And if that child has a rich piggy bank of sensory corrections, they can adjust, right? They have all these things that their eyes and their ears and their body have felt over the years around something coming in, some information coming in, and how do I respond? How do I change myself to avoid that, or to stop, or do something different in order so I don't have an impact or I don't fall? And so this is why it's very, very, very important, I believe, that you need to give the child ample opportunities and enough space in order for them to fill in all of these sensory maps. An experience could be, and I'm talking in terms of sensory experience. We have all these sensations constantly coming in through our ears, through our nose, smelling, eyes, vision, kinesthetically, through the skin, through the proprioception. All of these different things elaborate over time and accumulate an experience. And so the more experience we have, the better we will be in terms of sensory correction. So what I mean by this is bumping your head is experience. Touching a hot pot is experience. Doing all the things that hurt, or, even like vomiting, anything, our body has to experience all of these things in order to know what they are. And so in terms of movement also, if I'm going to be really good in my balance, I'm going to have to fall every single way I can fall. All the ways that aren't perfect for balance. If I can experience all of those ways, my balance will be much better. A person with a better developed collection of background corrections within his library is much better equipped for finding a quick motor solution for any situation.